What you're doing is incredibly selfish.
Oh, please. This is what you used to do. I have your strategy. Old school TYT. Break their back and drink their spinal fluid. Remember that? You used to play that on your show all the time. Hit them with a stick and they will do. You used to play that on the show all the time. Well, I'm the stick now, Cenk. I'm the fucking stick now.
No, you're not. No,
I definitely am. Compared to you?
Look, you're acting... Okay, so Kyle, now can I answer what the correct strategy is?
I'm waiting.
This is Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk and Krystal Ball of Breaking Points on their episode of Krystal, Kyle, and Friends debating Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. This is particularly fascinating simply because ever since, Trump won the election and, people have been kind of starting, I don't want to say grift, but kind of skewing more right. Anna and Cenk of the Young Turks had been under fire from kind of the progressive sphere of low-key being sellouts. And so I had seen a video or clips of Krystal debating Cenk a few months ago on Breaking Points. However, this one is Krystal and Kyle on Krystal, Kyle, and Friends debating him. So this is going to be kind of a long video because they just posted this. It's like 45 minutes long, but I want to watch it. I want to watch it and live react to it. I have not seen any bits or pieces of this. I haven't seen any part. Apparently, they break out into a screaming match, so that is going to be quite interesting to watch. Let's get it started. Let's see what this is about.
You have this fantasy land that Trump was like, oh, the left thinks Abrego Garcia, I've treated him wrong. I surrender, left.
The only time he has been constrained is through the left and liberals banding together and going through the court system and public pressure. That's it. That's all we've seen.
Is MAGA a fascist movement? Just give me a yes or no.
That's an absurd framing, Kyle. That's mainstream media framing.
You can't say that MAGA is fascist. Wait. You really don't believe MAGA is fascist?
I am against Trump. Totally. Okay? But why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk, talk about a straw man. I mean, you're making up stuff I never said. Come
What's
on.
the point of coming on here if I can't answer your
Cenk,
questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
so you want to talk about straw men? You're inventing things on the spot.
It's a mistake talking to you guys. It's a mistake.
Not a mistake.
Welcome, Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks. We appreciate you joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, you want to explain? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Cenk reached out to Kyle and I this week and said, hey, I think we got some things to talk through. Can I, let's have a conversation. So we said, sure, let's do that. And this kind of follows on the heels of a discussion/debate that you and I had back in December, where, the launching point, and you can, correct me if you don't think that this is a fair characterization of this conversation, but the launching point was a tweet that you had put out expressing some optimism about the Trump administration. So we can put that tweet up on the screen from Cenk to refresh everybody's memory about where we started. So you said, in November 29th, 2024, I've been trying to figure out why I'm more optimistic now than I was before the election. Even though I was so against the guy who won, I know now MAGA is not my mortal enemy, neither is the extreme left. My mortal enemy is the establishment, and they have been defeated. So over the course of that conversation, you explained to me that the reason you felt optimistic was really two reasons. Number one, as you say there, the establishment was defeated. And number two, you felt that the elements of the populist right and the bros would hold Trump accountable. And it kind of built to this crescendo where he actually turned to the camera and said, listen, guys, in a little while, you're going to be able to say whether I was right or whether Krystal was right. Let's go ahead and play that portion as a refresher. That is element number two.
I want to address something to the audience. Can I?
Sure.
Is this my camera here? Okay, yeah. So right-wing populists, it is now your job to prove Krystal wrong. Okay.
Go out and do it, y'all.
So she doesn't believe you. And by the way, almost no one on the left, other than me and Anna, believe you guys that you actually want to cut the Pentagon. And that you could pressure Elon Musk and Donald Trump to cut the Pentagon. So are you going to prove the left wrong, or are you going to prove them spectacularly right? Am I going to have to come on here and apologize to Krystal for ever believing in any right-wing populist and say, oh, I was a sucker, those guys were liars. All they want to do was increase the Pentagon, have more wars, more corruption, and they never held Trump accountable. We waited 4 long years for them to hold him accountable, and all they did was kiss his ass and show that they don't really believe in freedom. They said all this stuff about freedom, but they never meant it. Mm-hmm. They said all this stuff about drain the swamp, but they never meant it. They said all this anti-war stuff, but they never meant it. We're going to come back on here in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, and we're going to keep doing a check.
So, Cenk, that was kind of the context of that discussion. And just for the audience and for you, since there's two of us and one of you, and we don't want to be like jumping on all over each other, and maybe Kyle and I have disagreements on things, I thought I would kind of handle the first 30 minutes more or less. Kyle would handle the second 30 minutes. You've got a engagement you've got to go to, hard out in an hour, so that's the amount of time that we have.
We could do this for 4 hours if we had the time.
I'm sure we could, and it would be painful for all involved. But in any case, we've got a hard out for Cenk in 1 hour. We want to be very respectful of his time. So with everything that's happened in Trump 2.0, do you still feel that original optimism that you expressed at the time, do you still feel that was well-founded?
Absolutely. And part of the reason I wanted to come on is to see if you guys are on planet Earth or live in an alternate reality. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm being genuine about it. And Krystal, I went back and watched our conversation from back then.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you kept saying like things against Trump. And that's why I didn't even think it was a debate. It was a discussion, because I was like, yeah, I totally agree with you on Trump and the Republicans, et cetera. I was talking about the populist right and the independents that voted for Trump, the actual voters. And you saw it in that clip. I don't address Trump. I don't address any Republicans. I address the voters. So what has happened since then? Joe Rogan has come out against what Trump has done with Mahmoud Halil, with Abrego Garcia. Almost all of the MAGA hosts have come out against the war, ranging from Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon. Then you've got the politicians like Marjorie Taylor. Here's
the thing about all these MAGA people coming out about this war and all this kind of stuff. They're not in, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, is Joe Rogan saying, oh, I don't approve of this, actually going to stop Trump from doing what he's doing?
Taylor Green, you've got Tim Dillon, I'm not sure you can name a right-wing MAGA host or independent host that's for the war in Iran. So I'm genuinely curious, like, are you guys not seeing that, or does that somehow magically not count?
So, Cenk, I have the same question as to whether or not you're on planet Earth. Because, first of all, let me ask you this question.
Are you a homeowner that is considering selling your house, and maybe your house?
Do you think that Trump 2.0 is better or worse than Trump 1.0?
Trump is irrelevant.
No, he's not irrelevant, because I'll tell you why. Here's why. You expressed optimism about how all this would go. And the reason you were optimistic is because, hold on. No, we just saw your tweet, okay? The reason you were optimistic
I can explain the tweet.
Is because you thought these various groups and influencers would hold him accountable. So did they constrain his behavior, for example, when Elon Musk was running around with a chainsaw, slashing Social Security,
that's true,
and gutting the federal government and gutting the CFPB? No, we didn't. In fact, we saw Joe Rogan host Elon Musk, not to mention Mark Zuckerberg and Mark Andreessen, to make the case for those things, okay? No accountability there. Did we see them constrain his behavior and hold him accountable when he launched a crypto shitcoin, the most corrupt scheme in American history, most likely? No, he did it. He's faced no accountability for that. You mentioned some dissent from Rogan on the kidnapping of college students off of college campuses. Is it the right that organized in opposition to that? No, it's the left and it's liberals. The only time that Trump's actions have been constrained at all in this Trump 2.0 era, which is vastly worse than I even expected when you and I had that conversation. I mean, we've got men in hundreds of people in a concentration camp. I didn't see any accountability from the right on that. I don't see any accountability from the right on an American city that is right now under invasion by our own troops, Marines on the ground in the city of LA. No, I don't see any accountability there. I see an administration that, as I predicted, the guardrails are completely off. And the only places where he has been constrained at all is when the left and liberals organized against Elon Musk, Tesla protests, showing up at town halls, etc., made him toxic. He had to be turfed out of the administration. And in the context of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, when you had mass left liberal resistance, even pushing Democratic leaders who were lame and weak to do something, Chris Van Hollen goes down to El Salvador, and the administration did something they did not want to do, which was to bring him back. That is the only time This administration has been constrained. It has had nothing to do with the right, had everything to do with liberals and the left organizing against him.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So you asked about 12 questions. I would love the time to answer it, but you didn't actually answer my question. Do you see a massive MAGA revolt against the war? And I'm being genuine. It's a literal question. Or do you just not see it?
Cenk, here's what I can tell you. Okay, Charlie Kirk, your buddy. He has already.
Not my buddy.
He has
Crystal,
already gone.
That.
He has
That's
already
a ridiculous
gone.
thing to say.
He's
Go
already
ahead,
gone
finish
from. He's already gone from being critical of the Iran war to guess what? He got a call from the White House, and now what he's saying? What's he saying? Oh, I trust Trump. Trump is the man for this moment.
Wow.
I know he's going to make the right decision.
The exact
Steve
quote
Bannon.
is.
Go
Can I
ahead.
give the exact quote?
Yeah.
This is from Charlie Kirk. Quote: "We must trust Trump in this situation." Go ahead with Steve Bannon.
So
Steve
you're not
Bannon.
seeing
Hold
it.
on. Steve Bannon. Put up element number 4. This is the Financial Times today. Steve Bannon says, if the president, as commander-in-chief, makes a decision to do this, the MAGA movement, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Matt Gaetzes, we will fight it up till the end. But if he has more intelligence and makes that case to the American people, the MAGA movement will support President Trump. When Trump says that he gets to define what America first is, he's right about that. And so when you have Bannon, who also was critical of Elon Musk originally and got a call from the White House and said, cut it out, and he bent the knee, these people time and time again, Cenk, all they do is ultimately when Trump makes a decision, they bend the knee. We are already far enough into this administration to know there has been no constraint on his action that has come from the right, none, and we're in a war with Iran.
Okay.
We are already in a war with Iran. They didn't constrain him here. He's doing whatever the hell he wants to do.
Okay. So
valid
you guys
points.
just spoke for like 8 minutes doing a straw man. Okay. So you make it sound, and this is what's so harmful. You guys make it sound like I'm pro-Trump and I think that MAGA is just a bunch of angels who are secretly left-wing and they're going to magically agree with us on every issue. And the minute that Trump does something wrong, they're going to all push back 100%. And that's what I believed. I believed in rainbows and unicorns. Of course not, Krystal. Of course not. Well, you're trying to move them. Moving the other side is super hard. And so when you see anything where they actually agree with us, you have to encourage that. So when you say all the things that you said, is Trump a bad guy? Of course, of course. So if you're listening out here, guys, the framing of all of this is totally wrong. Like we're having a conversation. Do you think Trump's a bad? Of course I think Trump's a bad guy. He's totally authoritarian. That's why I voted against him. That's why I worked so hard against him. So even the framing makes me like sound defensive when you guys started with a premise that's out in la la land. We totally oppose Trump. So now the second part of the premise that's totally wrong is, do I think that MAGA is going to revolt on every issue against Trump from day one? Why? Why would they? They love Trump. Of course not. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for, is there one or two issues where there is actual agreement? And can we take that agreement and do something interesting to restrain Trump in those issues? So when you talk about immigration.
And so when has that worked?
Okay, hold on. Well, we're in the middle of it right now. So I'll tell
We're
you
at
what
war
it
with
doesn't
Iran,
work.
Cenk. Hate to break it to you. We're at war with Iran. It didn't work.
Okay. So Krystal, let me finish. So when you talk about immigration and all the things that he's terrible on, I know what MAGA's movable on or not. I talk about it on the Young Turks all the time. If you think you're going to move them on immigration, you are nuts. They're not going to move an inch on immigration. So I fight him tooth and nail on that dungeon in El Salvador that they're sending people to, the Marines in the streets. Now, there's some issues like immigration where they haven't moved an inch and they never will move an inch, right? Mm-hmm. There's some issues like the Marines in the streets where a smattering of them are like, this is a little uncomfortable. It feels a little unconstitutional. It doesn't feel quite right. Those libertarian wing.
I mean, all of this
guys,
feels
this
very
super
unconstitutional.
Important. There's 77 million people that voted for Trump, right? If you treat them all the same, you will not be able to win elections. Why is winning elections important? Because that is how you take power away from Trump, away from the Republicans. So if you treat all 77 million as hardcore MAGA, you're going to push them away and they're going to vote against you. You can say,
but the problem is, like, I feel like I have heard Cenk talk about, like, all of the voters for Kamala Harris were extreme left. extreme left wing that just couldn't come to the consensus and were just like 2-3 single issue voters. I feel like I've heard that argument from him, but on the other side.
Oh, no, but it makes me feel better. I have emotional release, and my audience likes me more because I seem like I'm tougher on Trump. I was so mean to him. Yeah, but did that persuade anybody? I called all of his voters fascists. Yes, but did that persuade anyone? You're trying to persuade the people in the middle to come to your side. So what are the issues where we've got a fighter's chance? War. Okay. So now, do I think that on day one, they were all going to flip and then act and be successful in stopping all of the establishment, all the neocons? And by the way, were we successful? We were not successful in stopping any of them during Biden or any other Democratic administration either, right? So now there's a giant full-blown revolt from MAGA against this war. Now, if you're saying, no, I don't see Tucker Carlson, Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Posobiec, Cernovich, Candace Owens, et cetera, all of them opposed to the war, but you might not, because a lot of people watch programming that honestly just kind of gives them a misleading sense of what's happening.
Did you see Tucker, Trump saying, Tucker called me to apologize. He said he went too far.
Damn.
Did you see Steve Bannon saying, we're all going to fall in line ultimately? So I'm not talking about, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the however many million Americans voted for Trump, some of whom are hardcore MAGA, and you will never move them. And I guarantee you, the moment that Trump says, this is the policy, they're going to say, you're right, sir, this is the policy, this is brilliant, and I am on board. Are there independents that can are there independents that can be moved? Yes. There are two separate questions here, okay? Number one is we are in hell right now. Like, the level of damage that has been done to this country, done to the world from Trump 2.0 already is astounding. So the number one thing is triage, right? How do we stop?
That's what I'm doing.
How do we stop as much damage as we can? And the track record thus far in the Trump administration is the only time he has been constrained is through the left and liberals banding together and going through the court system and public pressure. That's it. That's all we've seen in this administration.
That is a valid point. Honestly, there has not been a time that I have seen where, I mean, a lot of it is kind of, you know, liberals and leftists being out there protesting, putting the pressure on, and Democratic lawmakers putting the pressure on. I've never seen Trump reverse policy or change his mind on anything big specifically because of the MAGA base revolting. And I mean, she makes a good argument here, and Cenk keeps saying, no, it's not the leftists. It's not the left that puts the pressure on to do all this stuff. Oh, it's coming from inside of his base. He's listening to his base. I don't think Trump is listening to his base.
The other question is, how do you win elections? So go ahead and address that, and we can talk about the election piece. But real quick, before you get in, you know, as to the earnestness of this MAGA anti-war movement, put element number 3 up on the screen. Do you know, tell me, how many Republicans have signed on to the War Powers Resolution?
One.
Is Marjorie Taylor Greene? No. Is Lauren Boebert there? No. One. Thomas Massey, a libertarian who is, you know, ideologically consistent, kind of similar ideologically to Dave Smith. Every other person here is a Democrat. So to the earnestness of this anti-war MAGA coalition and their commitment to blocking war with Iran, here is where the rubber meets the road. You have one Republican who is already at odds with Trump, who is willing to put his name on this War Powers Resolution. That's it.
So, Krystal, look, I know you don't mean it, but you keep conflating two things. The Republican politicians, including Trump, and the Republican voters, or the people who voted for Trump, okay? So are the Republican politicians corrupt? Of course they're corrupt. Are they gonna say, hey, Israel, I'll be your bitch, and I'll do whatever the hell you want me to do? Of course they are. They're completely owned by Israel, okay? So AIPAC, et cetera, the warmongers. By the way, let's be honest, is more than half the Democratic Party totally owned by AIPAC? Yes, right? So I know, oh my God, oh no, you can't be honest. You have to just say the other side is terrible and our side is angels. No, I'm not going to play that.
Would you rather be on the side of the 37 who signed onto the War Powers Resolution,
Krystal,
or the
I am on the side of the 37. Everything you frame is a straw man. I am on the side of the 37. In fact, Ro Khanna is my top ally. Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna and I had the same exact strategy that you criticized in November when we talked.
That's not true.
You literally put me, and Kyle did the same thing. You guys put me in the same bucket as Bernie and Ro, reaching out to see if we can find agreement on the right.
What else,
right.
what else has Bernie done? What else has Bernie done that has been profoundly impactful? The anti-oligarch, the Fight Oligarchy tour, which was an effort to bind together the left and the liberals to protest and to resist this administration, and that has been profoundly more impactful.
We're having a conversation with a person who isn't here.
Did the Pentagon budget get cut? Just tell me that. What's the Pentagon budget? Did it get cut?
You've now asked me 28 questions.
Did Don Jr. Did he do whatever with the generals? Did that work out?
All right, guys, look, I came on here because, look, you're generally fair. So you asked me 28 questions, and then let me answer them. So, and stop framing it as if I'm a different person. You keep making all these assumptions about who are you on the Republican side or the Democratic side?
I'm literally citing things that you said, Cenk. Like, I played your clip of what you said.
Christ, man.
Turn to the camera.
Okay,
hey,
I'm
tell me if I'm wrong.
Crystal, I'm right here. I'm right here. Can I talk for myself instead of you?
You specifically held on the Pentagon budget.
At this point, borderline lying about me in every framing of every question. Can I
How am I lying?
Be a human being named
How am I lying? Tell me how I'm lying.
Questions instead of you framing
Tell me how I'm lying,
as a
Cenk.
person that doesn't exist.
Cenk,
okay?
I played the clip of you talking, so tell me how I'm lying.
Okay. All right. So now, of all your questions, you have this fantasy land that Trump was like, oh, the left thinks Abrego Garcia's I've treated him wrong. I surrender, left. Come on, what planet do you live on? No, the courts are not left or right. The courts have held. I'm thrilled that the courts have held. And it was so important for the courts to hold. So if they didn't hold on that, he was going to have unlimited authoritarian power. And we are against that, no matter how many times people try to pretend that we're on the side of Trump. Listen to what I am actually saying, and you will see this every day on the Young Turks. I am against Trump, totally, okay? Now, okay, yes, but why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk, talk about a straw man. I mean, you're making up stuff I never said.
Let me answer your questions.
Come on.
What's the point of coming on here if I can't answer your questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
so you want to talk about straw men?
Oh my goodness.
You're
inventing
things on the spot.
You guys, it's a mistake. So okay, now
not a mistake.
When you're talking about the Pentagon cuts. Mm-hmm. Do you think that I thought, oh my God, Elon's such a good guy. And Trump's such a good guy, even though I've spoken out against them at every single turn. And then I magically thought, oh, I bet they become liberals overnight, progressives overnight. No, you put out the Pentagon thing so that they're stuck either way. That's why Bernie and Ro joined me. Because either they cut the Pentagon, we go, yes, mission accomplished. We got a tiny, tiny amount accomplished during a Trump reign, which seemed impossible. Or they don't cut the Pentagon and they add to it. And then we all come out, as I did and Bernie and Ro did, and go, see, we told you. They're hypocrites. The leaders of your party never intended to cut the Pentagon. MAGA, they were lying to you. Now, Krystal,
does MAGA care, Cenk? Did that work? Did MAGA
yes,
care?
They do care.
No, they don't.
No, okay, Krystal.
I've seen zero pushback on the Pentagon budget. Let me just say, because I let you go on for a little while.
Oh, I know. There
were two tactics that were floated by me and by you in our conversation, okay? You said, I think it's great that Elon's responding to me, Don Jr.'s responding to me, like we have more of a chance. No, you said we have more of a chance with these guys to cut the Pentagon budget than we don't. And I said, nothing good's gonna come out of this. And so the important thing to do is to resist the project outright, because we don't want a bunch of the richest man on the planet running our government. And so we saw how this played out.
Yeah.
The Pentagon, hold on. The Pentagon did not get cut. And actually what happened is all of the liberal and left organizing against Tesla, against the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, against Elon directly, tanked his popularity to the point that Trump felt he was a political liability and the whole project had to be scrapped. So the tactic of let's work with them and try to cut the Pentagon budget failed. The tactic of let's resist this project outright and make the case and make Elon himself politically toxic succeeded.
So, Krystal, we do live in two different worlds. It's fascinating to see. It's amazing to see. So, number one, the project of saying cut the Pentagon worked. Why did it work? Because they cut the Pentagon, they magically became progressives overnight? No. It worked because it showed and highlighted their hypocrisy, that they weren't going to cut the Pentagon. And now I get it, guys. Especially if you're in the audience, you're not seeing it. I get it. And I'm not saying that as an insult. You're not seeing it.
So
because
you won because the Pentagon budget went up, even though you thought that the Pentagon budget would get cut.
Can I finish? Okay. So the reason you're not seeing it is because you're not engaging with MAGA, and that's okay. And you don't want to engage with MAGA. I got it.
Do you know who I am? Do you know the show I host?
I don't know if you know who you are.
Who are you talking to right now? I host a show with Sagar Enjeti and Emily Jasinski every day.
So, Krystal,
no one in this room talks more to MAGA than I do, okay?
Yeah, okay. But so are you saying that none of the MAGA voters were thrilled that they added to the Pentagon? Is that what you're saying?
They don't give a shit because Trump did it.
Elon and Trump.
No, you guys were wrong.
Elon and Trump and Don Jr., Cenk, lied to you from the beginning when they pretended like there was even a 1% chance of it. So when people told you at the time, though, resist them outright and point out that they're frauds. Don't pretend like maybe they'll cut it. That was kind of the point.
You guys have a totally ridiculous, All right, let me not be insulting. We disagree on strategy. Okay.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, yeah. This whole idea that you're making a difference because Donald Trump is listening to the left, I can't believe you guys think that. That sounds totally detached from reality.
I'll make that case in a minute.
Why is Elon Musk out? Because people burn Tesla cars? I mean, Krystal, you said that in the intro. Are you serious? No, Elon's out because his policies were always deeply unpopular. No one wanted those cuts.
Yeah, and who pressed that case?
Them, and they're in La La Land.
Cenk, and who pressed that?
If nobody wanted those cuts, why did all of those cuts happen? With Doge and everything, dismantling USAID, gutting so many different programs and things, and mass laying off people, you need to send me a weekly email every Friday of the top 5 things that you were effective on this week. If nobody liked that, and if those policies were, or not even policies, like if those moves were deeply unpopular from the beginning, why did they let it happen? Why did they let it continue to happen? Attacking the VA, all these different governmental agencies, erasing, the workforce and all this kind of stuff. With Department of Doge, come on now. Like, if that was all deeply unpopular from the beginning, why did they allow it to happen?
That case. It was the left and liberals
in the street.
Joe Rogan hosted him on his podcast to pump him up. Joe Rogan,
guys,
think about, but Cenk, think about this. Think about this.
Unbelievable straw man.
No.
Hold on, can I just finish?
Let me just finish my thought here, okay? Rogan hosted Zuckerberg and Andreessen to attack the CFPB.
Of course he did.
To gut and attack the
CFPB. Bernie Sanders progressive overnight.
I forgot that the
CFPB.
But
he's insane. No, guys.
Are you insane? You were the one who apparently thought that. Cenk, if anything is going to be populist, hold on, Cenk. Let me finish a thought. If the populist right stands for anything, you would think it would be an anti-scam bureau that is wildly effective. But no, and actually stood up against debanking conservatives. But no, what did Rogan do, and what did they cheer for with Elon with the chainsaw? Completely gutting not only the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Trump gutting the National Labor Relations Board, but them defenestrating the ability of this government to enforce white-collar crime at all. Did MAGA care? No. They didn't. The only people that held them to account were left and liberals who organized against that and, yes, successfully made Elon so toxic that he ultimately crashed out of the administration. That's what happened.
So let me try explaining it this way and see if I can get through to you guys. So you keep telling me all the things that Trump did wrong. Of course he did. So I'm saying that it's a given that he's always going to do, for example, 90% of things massively wrong. And in the other 10% that he plans to do wrong, I'm saying we have a fighter's chance if we ally and we show hypocrisy or we get allies. It's a win-win either way, okay? So for example, in opposing the war, either they become our allies and somehow at some point we stop this war, or we show, oh, you guys never meant it. Now you're the pro-war party, which makes us much more likely to win over independents and win the next election. But as I say that, you keep framing it as if I agree with them 90%, and where I think that I'm going to flip them overnight on the 90% where we disagree. No, there's no chance of that. So you can stop asking that question. They're not going to move on cutting the budget, and they're not going to listen that, hey, you know what, you shouldn't cut the malaria treatment in Africa. You shouldn't cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because every dollar we spend there, we get back $20, et cetera. But if you go with your maximalist approach, guys, and you say, all right, I'm fighting you in a maximum way, so that means I'm never going to agree with you. I'm going to insult you at every turn. I'm not going to listen to you. So when you come in and you go, hey, guys, let's ally against the war, or maybe did you think that Elon's and I said this in every right-wing talk show that I did, and I said it at the Charlie Kirk event, I said, remember, beware of your own donors like Elon Musk. And then eventually they got aware of their own donors. Now, did they do it magically and overnight? No, it was mainly a fight between Elon and Trump, right?
It was their egos. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
And the reason they are unpopular is not because the left's maximalist approach of yelling fascist at every Trump voter is working. It's because their policies are deeply unpopular.
And who explains that their policies are deeply unpopular? The left and liberals are the ones that highlight how deeply unpopular those policies are. So that's where the credit belongs.
Like I do. So
right, but that's not like Joe Rogan does, right? Joe Rogan doesn't do that. Charlie Kirk doesn't do that. They don't do that. I just said
how unpopular they are.
Yeah, but my point is, Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that, Cenk. They're not allies. Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that. Steve Bannon doesn't do that. Sloppy Steve goes and gives Trump a hand job every day. That's the point, is that they're not allies. And by the way, even on the Iran war thing, they're lying. They are lying. We literally have the quotes right here. Charlie Kirk is already backpedaling. Quote, we must trust Trump in this situation. Steve Bannon, if Trump ultimately decides to bomb Iran's nuclear sites, MAGA would come around. That's not me speaking, that's Steve Bannon. The vast majority of the MAGA movement will go, look, we trust your judgment. We don't like it. In fact, we may hate it, but we'll get on board. Tucker Carlson called Trump and apologized, and he also said on his podcast with Steve Bannon, quote, I like Israel. I don't talk about Gaza because my audience got mad at me. He said, quote, watching Donald Trump, who at his core is sincere about peace, I feel for President Trump, and he just has to roll with it. That is not true. What he's saying is not true. These are not allies. They will immediately start moving the goalposts as soon as Trump starts bombing Iran.
Here we go again.
You're going to get this. You're going to get, oh, he's getting bad advice from the neocons around him. It's not a big deal. It's a limited attack. It's defensive. It's not offensive. This isn't like Iraq. There are no boots on the ground. The only people who are sincere that I will grant you, Cenk, is libertarians. So Thomas Massey and Dave Smith, because libertarians have a track record like Ron Paul did of being very principled, but everybody in MAGA, or 99% of them, will bend the knee, just like 99% of the ones in Congress have already bent the knee. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's saying things that are against the war, she's ultimately not signing onto the bill to block the war.
Yeah, see, that is a good point. I mean, if they are against it and all of that, like they said, they had already bent the knee, all of these pundits, these influencers and stuff, why haven't any other Republicans signed on to that? This was recorded a few days ago. Maybe there have been updates. But, I mean, as soon as that resolution was circulating to oppose this war in Iran, why didn't more Republicans sign on to it? Why don't they step into their power?
Okay, so here we go again. So again, 90-10, guys. The framing of that question makes it sound like I think Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson have good intent, and my God, they're ready to rebel on everything against Donald Trump.
I said Iran.
No.
I said Iran.
And I just answer a question.
But I didn't say that. I said Iran.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So I think that obviously 90% of the influencers, the hosts, et cetera, are going to stick with Trump 100%, right? Well, I wouldn't even say 90%. I'd say, 75% or so. Are they going to kiss his ass on everything? Well, of course they are. They're on the right, and their whole ecosystem is based on kissing politicians and leaders' asses. Now, let's be honest, not us and not you guys, but MSNBC and now a lot of online hosts on the left, their job is to kiss Democratic ass, and they say, oh, yeah, Joe Biden was young and dynamic, et cetera. So, yes, we have the partisans, and they are, by definition, always going to stick with one side is great, the other side is the devil, okay? So now when you get to the 25% of hosts, because now the reason I moved it from 10 to 25, because you're including Rogan, et cetera. So is Rogan the same as Steve Bannon? If you think he is, that's just totally wrong. Now, do they agree on a lot of things? Yes. Do they agree on everything? No. Is Steve Bannon right about most things? No, he's horribly, horribly wrong about most things. So will they, when Trump says heal, will they heal? In the beginning, yes. And that's exactly what you're saying. But the reason they're having to heal is because they started rebelling in the first place. And Trump got mad and everybody else got mad. And even today, you just go on any website. So Bannon is saying, don't go to war. It's terrible. Is he then saying, oh, Donald Trump? Of course he is, because he's on that side. And did we see a lot of left-leaning hosts go, oh, well, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are corporate guys and they're bad, but we have to go with them anyway? Yes, we did. But look, you have to be honest about what's actually happening. So if you guys are saying, and I'm not trying to strawman you guys like you did, in my opinion, in the framing of every question. So I'm asking you, are you really, you're saying it's all fake and you think that all these right-wing hosts are not actually anti-war, that this is, but they've been telling their audience now for months that,
Cenk,
that the war is a terrible, let me ask the question, and that the war is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea, but, and how would that strategy work? So they get their audience totally against the war, then they capitulate to Trump.
Let me tell you how that strategy works.
How did that help them be pro-war?
Let me explain. Let me explain how
My
that strategy works.
answer to your question is yes, by the way. In 99% of cases, they are just lying, and they'll go and suck Trump off again.
So let me...
Good, that's a real disagreement.
Jake,
they're already backing off, and the war didn't even start yet. We didn't even bomb the nuclear sites yet. They're already backing off.
How this strategy works, okay? They postured as anti-war because they thought it was a good electoral strategy. So now they have some track record laid of claiming that Trump is the pro-peace candidate, blah, blah, blah.
And why was it a good strategy? Because their voters are anti-war.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, the polling is wildly at odds with you, Cenk, on that. We can come back to that in a second. But okay, so they this is the pro-peace ticket, whatever. And I think there were a lot of independents actually who were swayed by that anti-war message, which was completely at odds with reality and with Trump's first term. I think we all agree with that. Okay, so I think there were independent voters who were swayed by that. Charlie Kirk and others now, to maintain some credibility, they have to postulate, Trump is getting pulled into this and the neocons are tricking him and confusing him, et cetera.
It's never his fault.
But we already know how this plays out because it's already played out. Trump called Tucker kooky and said he needs to get a TV network, basically saying he's a has-been. Tucker called him to apologize. That was the message, not just to Tucker, but to everybody else. Time to bend the knee, time to get on board. And they did. They did.
Yeah.
So we don't have to guess. It's already happened. It's already played out.
Right,
they've already bent the knee.
Okay, so we're now actually approaching an actual disagreement rather than the one that was foisted upon me that I don't like. So, all right. So, guys, you think that all these guys and their voters are all liars, and that they're not actually.
I don't know why you lump in the voters because
I'm talking about the voters.
Okay, well let's talk about
the voters.
Talk about the voters then. Let me ask you. Let me ask you a really simple question. Let me ask you a really simple question about the voters.
Of course, you like the Trump and the Republicans.
Which part? That's not what I said.
Stop saying it.
Cenk,
you said
let me ask a really basic question.
37-1 vote. You said how many Republicans voted for war powers? I said one, Tom Massey. And you kept going like, oh, did you know that they didn't? I said, yeah. I answered
because they're fake.
So yes, their voters.
Let me ask you this question.
Saying that their voters are not anti-war at all. So be clear.
So let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question.
Are you saying they're actually liars?
Let me ask you this question. Which base, the Democratic Party base or the Republican Party base, which one do you think is more opposed right now to war with Iran? Which one?
The left. It's not even close.
It's not even close. Exactly. That's the point. And so if you are going to build a grassroots people-powered movement with bodies in the streets to oppose war, where do you need to go for those numbers? The left, because they're already there with you. And by the way, the MAGA base, the minute that Trump says we're in a war with Iran, they are going to overwhelmingly back him because they have every single time.
You have the numbers already.
So put up 8. This is element 8, I believe, for us. These are the poll numbers. Now, there are other polls out there, I grant you, but this is among Trump 2024 voters. You ask them, do you support or oppose the U.S. providing offensive weapons to help Israel strike Iranian military targets? What we're doing now, 79% support. Do you support or oppose the U.S. taking its own direct military action, if necessary, to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons? That's exactly the framing that Trump is using right now. Support 72%. They are more pro-war. So are there some who, don't want to get in another foreign entanglement? Sure. But overwhelmingly, are they going to back an Iran war? Are they already backing an Iran war because Trump says so? 100%.
Which is fascinating because, they did mention earlier, Trump was saying that he was the pro-peace candidate. He was the anti-war candidate. He doesn't want to get us dragged into another endless war, and his voters supported that, And then to see this poll come out, that overwhelmingly, if he just says, oh, never mind, we're going to go to war with Iran, all right, everybody falls in line. I mean, 70+%, that's a clear majority.
Okay, so let's establish who we're talking about.
Overwhelming majority.
So when you talk about Trump and the Republican politicians, 9% of them are liars. They're going to be pro-war. They're going to do all the terrible things that we're against, that we are all against, including me. Okay. Now, when you move to the media, I'm out on a limb, and I get it. If you grant them an inch, people will say, okay, that's it. You love them, and you're a Trump supporter, et cetera. But I'm doing it anyway because I'm being honest. I think 75% of them are unreachable, but 25% of them, at a minimum, actually will listen to you, have their own audience pushing them to be anti-war. They're not with us on all issues. They're not with us on most issues. But on war, I think that a significant chunk of them are with us. Okay, so when you go to Charlie Kirk's audience, for example, why is Charlie Kirk even dipping his toe into the waters of opposing Trump's policy on Iran and then quickly rushing back out? The quickly rushing back out is obvious. They're ass kissers, right? So the question is, why did he dip his toe in the first place? Because he did a poll of his own audience, and his audience said 90-10 do not help Israel go to war with Iran. 90-10. That's his audience, okay? So now you move to the last category, which are the voters themselves. That is where I am most hopeful that they actually are anti-war. Now, does that mean 100% of them are anti-war? No, not at all, okay? But I think a solid 50% of Trump voters, remember, a lot of them are independents, or a lot of them are in somewhere in the spectrum. At least 50% of them are actually anti-war. So what I'm seeing is all over social media, all over the right-wing shows, their own base in an uprising. Why do you think Charlie Kirk, Tucker, and Bannon are doing those things? Almost all of them are saying on their own shows, well, you guys are pushing me to do this, and yeah, I hear you guys. We were supposed to be anti-war, right? Now, guys, since this is like the first 6 months, are they going to go run back to daddy? Of course they're going to run back to daddy, right? So what we're trying to do is not turn all of them against all of Trump's policies instantly, because that is wildly unrealistic. You are trying to either flip them or show hypocrisy to the voters that you can reach on the issues where they agree with us. There aren't that many, but war is one of them with half of his base. So you guys think that if the left wing does a maximalist approach and we yell at those people, that those voters are going to interpret it as, oh my God, they were right. Since they're yelling at me, I will now go to their side. My strategy is go on those shows to talk to their audience and say, look, I'm not trying to trick you. I think you guys actually, a lot of you are actually anti-war. And I'm anti-war. And guys, you'd be surprised that they don't think the left is anti-war at all. They would have the same exact conversation in reverse. They would ask incredulously, who do you think is more anti-war, left or right? And they would all say right, and that the left is more pro-war. And I'm like, no, guys, no, we're totally anti-war. So Dave Smith and I did a coalition. Dave Smith did a great job on your show, Breaking Points. Fantastic. I agree with you. Libertarians are the first to peel off. And great, look, we peeled off the libertarians on the issue of war. Perfect. And we're doing a website, unitedagainstwar.com, where I'm inviting allies. And if it turns out only the libertarians come and the right wing does not come, okay, then that's what happened. So now, if you're saying that no revolt happened at all, it was all fake, all the media guys were fake, 100% of them, and all the voters were fake, 100% of them, and they all actually love war, Okay, that's a straw man. I don't think you're saying that. But you got to tell me what you are saying. Are you saying that none of their voters are anti-war, or a big chunk, or a small chunk, and that if we yell at them, they'll become more anti-war? Or if we reach out and say, hey, let's form an anti-war alliance, they'll be more anti-war?
So I'll tell you what I'm saying. I think that once Trump starts bombing Iran, those numbers we just showed you are correct. So like 70 to 80% of the Republican base will be in favor of it. That's what I'm saying about it. But I want to ask you, when Trump does bomb Iran, do you think the number among Republicans will stay at only 50% supporting it, or is it going to go up to 70 or 80%? Hey guys, this is just a little piece of an hour-long debate that Krystal and I did with Cenk Uygur about the best path forward and how to resist rising fascism in this country and Trumpism. It got very heated at different points. We have clear differences in ideological perspectives. And yeah, everybody got a little riled up, but ultimately I think it was good to get all these ideas out there. If you want to see the whole thing, sign up below on Substack. You're not going to want to miss it. I will say this. Krystal did the first 30 minutes. I did the second 30 minutes. We wanted to split it up a little bit so that it wasn't like her and I jumping in and alternating, because it makes it harder to flesh out a point. So she got the first 30 minutes. I got the second 30 minutes. You're going to want to see the whole thing. It was a lot of fun. So sign up below and enjoy. Hey.
Do I want to sign up for the rest of it? I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I'll do it since I'm already here. Okay, all right. So I'm sorry, Krystal and Kyle, but I really, really like this, and I want to finish watching it and doing this reaction. So please do not sue me. I do not have as much money as you guys.
Even got started that Republican voters would start to rebel against Israel. Well, that a lot of people got mad at me because they thought that was outlandish, and they thought, oh, since that can't possibly be true, I wonder if Cenk is supporting the right wing. But now you guys see that, yeah, a lot of them, because pushed by their own base, their own audience, their own voters, started talking against the war. I mean, I think you guys are acknowledging they at least certainly talked against the war. So
yeah,
now
but it's chicken shit though, Cenk.
Once it starts, what's going to happen? So that's hard to determine. Will there be some percentage just run back to daddy? Of course. And by the way, whenever a Democratic politician does something, a huge percentage of our base, even if we hated it, go rushing to daddy, right? And by the way, all three of us have fought against that. And we've been principled on that, in holding the Democrats accountable. I'm trying to get them to hold Trump and the Republicans accountable. And now I'm going to do a second bold prediction. So I said the rebellion would start on war in Israel. I believe it has started. You guys think that they're all lying. That's amazing. Okay, no problem.
Based on evidence, yes.
Okay, all right. And you think, okay, actually, before I get to the second prediction, Kyle, again, now that we're in the real world, like not fake Cenk, but my actual opinions, and we're getting to real disagreements. So do you think that his voters are also lying, or do you think some of his voters are actually anti-war?
No, I think what Krystal just showed is correct, that 70 to 80% of them, even now, just saying, like, when Trump does this bombing of Iran, are you going to support it? I think, yes, the movement happens, but the movement happens in the wrong direction. It might go from 50% in theory supporting bombing before, now it goes up to 70 to 80%. So they're moving in the wrong direction. At the same time, liberals and leftists are moving in the right direction. That's what I'm seeing, movement in the wrong direction. Just like all these people who tepidly spoke out against it in a chicken shit way are now all bending the knee already before Trump even does the bombing of the nuclear facility.
Yeah. Maybe I should be clear, because
I'm going to pull up Twitter to see what's going on there while I'm watching.
The misunderstanding is so severe. I take it as a given that progressives are anti-war and that we're better at being anti-war. Maybe I should say that 200 times so that people are super clear on it. Do I think that libertarians are more anti-war than the right? Of course. These are like obvious facts. So now,
so is Sam and Emma, are they going to be in your anti-war coalition?
Well, I hope they are. You've
reached out to them?
So guys, okay, this is a different topic. Let's get to that in a second. Okay, let me just finish this. So Kyle is saying about 20% are anti-war, and it'll be even less than that once the war starts. Okay, I disagree. See, that's an actual disagreement.
No, I'm saying it's going to be 70 to 80% that support it when Trump starts doing it. Those numbers are going to hold. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so 20% are anti-war, and that's it for the Trump voters.
Correct.
Okay, yes.
Once he starts doing the bombings, yes.
Okay, so I think it's 50%, and I think that there's two possible pathways here. One is Trump drops a bomb and somehow it doesn't escalate. That's less likely, right? If he drops some bombs and gets the hell out, then those numbers are going to hold. Republicans are going to see he was a tough guy. He's master negotiator. He bombed them. He showed them how tough he was, and then he got out. So no, Kyle, I'm agreeing with you. If that in that scenario, they hold with Trump and they think Trump's a hero for doing just the right amount of bombing and then getting out of the war. Okay. Now that won't be true, but they'll think that because they're naturally inclined to support the guy that they voted for, right? But if Trump does the bombing and we start getting enmeshed in this war, here comes bold prediction number 2. Yes, his base will definitely flip on him, and they'll flip on him so hard that Trump will abandon Israel in the middle of the war.
See, that's that's our disagreement, is that my reading of it is leftists, liberals, and independents will be so strongly against him, and he'll, no matter what happens, Cenk, he will always have 26 to 33% of the country. 26 to 33% are flat out in a cult. But when everybody turns against him, it's going to be independents, liberals, and leftists, and that's when the numbers are going to be overwhelming. And then 5 years, 10 years down the road, everybody will look back at the Iran war, just like we look now at the Iraq war, where you can't find a George W. Bush bumper sticker anywhere because now everybody hates George W. Bush. That will happen in the long run.
Yeah.
But now when it matters, they're all going to get on board, including the hosts that were tepidly, in a chicken shit way, saying, oh, I kind of disagree with this.
But Kyle, think about why they were even saying that. Why not just go out and go, rah, rah, yeah, Trump's right, let's bomb Iran. Why are they bothering to do that? Because
they were hoping that Trump would not be a total psychopath, but when he becomes a total psychopath, they're still going to ride his nuts.
So, okay,
and that's the issue I have with them.
But Kyle, you see, you just said that even the right-wing media thinks that it would be a psychopath move to attack Iran.
Yeah, but then when he does it, they'll support it. So they're not principled. They're not principled.
You know why? Because they're on the right.
But
Kyle,
but that's not an excuse. Fuck them for that. Fuck them.
Let's nail it down because we're so close. Hold on, we're really close. So now you guys are saying, okay, no, if the war starts, they're never going to turn and they're going to dig in even more. And then only 10 years, 20 years later will they realize that it was a mistake. Okay, what I'm saying is, let's clarify our terms. So if we get enmeshed in this war, I'm telling you that I think that their voters are actually at a minimum 50% anti-war, and they're going to get super mad that Israel, the neocons, the establishment dragged us into that war. And what I am seeing, and I get that you guys are not seeing it, and I get that you don't believe me, but I'm here to tell you guys, I'm listening to them, and that doesn't mean that I think they're all great guys and we agree with them. All I'm doing is listening. I know that that's like a crime these days.
Cenk is trying to be bipartisan.
But when I listen, what I hear is they
bipartisan.
hate that Israel is dragging us into this war.
Yeah, I think they're largely full of shit, Cenk. But I want to get to my main. I want to get to my main disagreement with you, because here's my issue, right? I would say I have
but I didn't answer 2 questions you guys asked. Okay.
All right, go ahead, and then I'll get to it.
Yeah, just to finish the thought on the Iran war, guys. If he gets in and out, then yes, his base will totally rally to his side. Okay, I want to be clear about that. But if he gets stuck in the middle of the war and his base actually starts to rebel in a very significant way, I think at that point, everyone will be able to see it, even the guys who don't want to see it, right? So if that happens, can you guys please acknowledge that it happened and encourage the rebellion? And remember, we're going after Trump voters, not necessarily. So when you say 33% are blind, of course they are. By the way, let's be honest, 33% on our side are blind. They thought Joe Biden was young and dynamic. We're fighting for the middle, guys. We're fighting to win over the middle. So some of that is making our case, and we all make our case. You guys make our case, I make our case, and we all do it forcefully, right? But then you have to encourage the people who voted for Trump that are in the middle to come to our side.
Listen.
Hey, look at their hypocrisy on the war. You see, you guys were anti-war. I do believe you, and they betrayed you. Come to our side, not because we agree on all issues, but they went with the establishment. They went with the neocons, just like we told you they were going to. I told them that Trump would go with the neocons and that they were wrong to trust them. So now they're beginning to see, and if you look on my timeline, I know that you don't all right, let me just say, on my timeline on X, there's tons of people who are like, God damn Trump. And I know you're not going to believe it. But you can actually see it with your own eyes. There's also tons of people who say, no, we trust in Trump, we believe in Trump. But there's people who say, I can't believe he screwed us. And that's going to grow and grow the longer we're in the war. So I don't think it's going to be just 10 or 20 years from now. If we are in this war 6 months from now and we're buried in that war, if MAGA has not rebelled at that point and put enormous pressure on Trump, then okay. Especially like 4 years from now, if none of them rebelled and they all became pro-war, I swear to God, I'll come out here and say, oh, my strategy was wrong and my prediction was wrong. But the first part of the prediction already came true.
That's
but that's the thing is, we literally have a factual disagreement on that part.
The first right-wing host into going, well, we don't want
we literally have a factual disagreement as to whether or not that's true. But here's my issue. Let me ask you this question. Is MAGA a fascist movement? Just give me a yes or no.
That's an absurd framing, Kyle. That's mainstream media framing.
You can't say that MAGA is fascist. You can't. Wait. You really don't believe MAGA is fascist? You argued with Anna months ago where you said, yes, they are a fascist movement.
Okay, can I give you an actual intelligent answer instead of this dumbass yes or no?
Why? So it's a pretty simple question.
No, it's not a simple question.
It absolutely is.
Explaining things. So if you say, is Trump authoritarian enough that you should call him fascist? Yes. Okay, so that's why you guys keep conflating the voters with the politicians. If you say
if the leader of the movement is a fascist, then the movement is a fascist movement.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Cenk, we have mass kidnappings and abductions and human traffickings with no due process from ICE Gestapo thugs. They've raided schools, meatpacking facilities, farms, Home Depots, 7-Elevens, deported a 4-year-old with American citizen with cancer, arrested a woman who just gave birth.
I agree.
That's a fact. If anybody who supports that, Cenk, is a fascist. They're a fascist. Say no due process, throw out the Constitution, that's fascism.
Okay, so Kyle, we agree that all those things are authoritarian in nature, and you can call them fascist, and that's why we all worked so hard to make sure that Trump didn't win, because we saw all of those authoritarian tendencies. But the way you just framed it attacks the voters, because you said MAGA, not Trump.
Why do I have to coddle their fucking feelings, Cenk? Why can't
Just a really quick definition of a fascist movement. It's a political movement that embraces authoritarian and ultranationalism, characterized by dictatorial power, suppression of opposition, and often belief in racial or cultural superiority. So let's break that down a little bit. Cenk just said all that stuff is authoritarianism. You see this ultranationalism with MAGA. And they keep saying, oh, Trump should run for a third term, and saying that, oh, Trump should be king and all of this stuff. And then belief in racial or cultural superiority, the whole, mass deportations, get them out of our country, banning all of these countries and things like that, and support pretty much cleaning the country out of all these people. Fascist movements also typically reject liberal democracy. They promote strong centralized control, which you see with Trump's administration trying to consolidate power, and his supporters are all for that. And glorify the nation, often using propaganda, mass rallies, and militaristic imagery, which you guys are all familiar with the things that Trump has been doing. I mean, he just had a whole military parade for his birthday. So, just key features of a fascist movement from my notes here: authoritarian leadership, extreme nationalism, so one powerful leader or ruling party with total control, and they are all for that. Extreme nationalism, prioritizing the nation above all else, and suppression of dissent, trying to crush people, censoring the media. I just put a video out earlier about how Voice of America was completely gutted today with a layover of 600 people, and they're trying to shrink it down to 81, a staff of 81 to run a global newsroom that was founded in 1942 to combat Nazi propaganda. And so, yeah.
Can I just tell the truth?
I'd like to win. And
but that's the problem. You keep reaching to the right, and then you miss the whole ocean to your left, and that's the problem.
I don't miss it. I'm the guy leading the anti-war coalition. What part am I missing? Like, am I pro-war? No, I fucking hate this war, and I'm trying desperately to get us out of it. And by the way, this whole hey, I'll do I'm trying not to do it, guys. All right, I'll do the wrong strategy that makes me feel better by yelling at their voters and drive them away. Oh, meanwhile, Palestinians are getting killed every single day. Meanwhile, Israel's starting new wars.
But let's talk about that, though, Cenk.
Because I yelled at MAGA.
Let's talk about that.
This is your old strategy. Cenk,
hey,
what I'm doing is your old strategy.
I'm so pure.
No, stop. No. What I'm doing is your old strategy, Cenk. I'm doing TYT's old strategy.
I'm trying super hard not to say it's a dumb strategy.
Why are you okay with the right playing by different rules, Cenk? Why are you? Because the right, I saw this last election. A speaker at one of Trump's rallies at MSG came out and said the whole party of Democrats are degenerates, Jew haters, and lowlives. Trump calls Democrats the enemy from within and says we should use the military against them, and then he does use the military against them. He called us fascists and communists, and he's sitting in the fucking White House now. He was belligerent as belligerent can be, and he got to the White House. Why can't we be belligerent and have a little bit of swagger back and build a movement? If people want to come over from the right, that's great. They can come over from the right. But I'm trying to get liberals and leftists and independents and build a massive coalition of 60% of the country that way. Fuck them if they're signing on to all the fascist shit that's happening right now. Fuck them.
Okay. Oh my God, Kyle, you're so pure.
No, I'm a truth teller. I'm a truth teller. You'll play hide the ball. If they're actually fascists, you'll pretend like they're not fucking fascists. They are fascists.
Yeah. So Kyle, you've done such a good job at yelling at me.
By telling the truth. By telling the truth. By telling the truth.
Your brand is perfect, Kyle.
I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, not coddling the nuts of MAGA voters.
Yeah, bullshit.
Totally accurate. Totally accurate.
Okay.
No, it's the truth. What part was wrong?
Okay. What you're doing is incredibly selfish.
Oh, please. This is what you used to do. I have your strategy. Old school TYT. Break their back and drink their spinal fluid. Remember that? You used to play that on your show all the time. Hit them with the stick and they will do. You used to play that on the show all the time. Well, I'm the stick now, Cenk. I'm the fucking stick now.
No, you're not. No,
I definitely am. Compared to you?
Look, you're acting. Okay, so Kyle, now can I answer what the correct strategy is?
I'm waiting.
Okay, so this guy, his theory of the case is, let's take the 77 million Trump voters and call them fascists. I think that is super dumb. Okay?
It's accurate. It's accurate.
Okay. All right. You can say that it's accurate.
Is it not?
They all voted for fascism. No, they didn't. So what? A ton of them voted for authoritarian rule and voted for MAGA to be what they are. But a ton of them voted on inflation and immigration. I know your audience doesn't want to hear that, and they want to see you being a hero and calling them all Nazis, okay? But what you're doing is driving away independent voters. You have no coalition because you keep calling the other side fascist. We're actually building a real coalition of independents.
Not allowed to tell the truth.
Yes, including independents. Can I finish? Including independents who voted for Trump.
How did Trump win those independents?
Trump and are anti-war.
But Cenk, even if you putting aside, no, let's just
they're belligerent and they win. Why can't we be belligerent and win?
Let's just talk tactics. Hold on. Let's just talk tactics. You've answered many. Let's just talk tactics. Did Trump win by extending an olive branch? Is that how he won over the independents?
Was Trump handing out olive branches to all the lefties in the country? He was calling us fucking serial killers and communists and fascists and lowlives.
Kyle and I did the thing you're doing now.
Just yell at me. Don't let me answer.
The thing we did, you're doing now.
All right,
we did it.
Can I answer
and
the
it was
question?
failed. It was failed. We tried it. Learn from our mistakes.
Okay. No, you're making the mistake. So, guys, you attack their politicians. So Kyle, when you talk about, I used to say you break their back and drink their spinal fluid. I didn't used to say that. I say that now. You do it to their politicians, and you expose their hypocrisy to their own voters. But those voters are not going to listen to you if you call them Nazi in the first sentence. They're going to shut off completely, and they're going to say, oh, Trump was right about the left. They're radicals, they're insane, etc. Instead, if you say to them, start with an agreement. Hey, guys, remember when you said you were anti-war? They're going to say, oh, yeah, we're anti-war.
This is the precious flower argument.
Okay. All right. No, it's not okay, so look, now again, we're at a real disagreement. When you were pretending that I'm like, coddling Trump or Republicans, that's a lie. Okay, so we've now moved past that.
You're doing the voters.
So now when you get to their voters, their voters, your strategy is call them fascist.
No.
My strategy is talk to them like they're human beings and say, hey, did Trump reach out to the left? No. But did he say that he agreed with left-wing for things like anti-war and corruption? He doesn't mean it. But did he say it? Yes. Was he able
while
to
shitting
do better
relentlessly on the entire left?
I'm almost done. So was he able to do better marketing and convince them that he actually is anti-war and anti-corruption? Yes, he did better marketing. It's not true, but he did better marketing. So those voters, a lot of them voted for Barack Obama and a lot of them voted for Bernie. Can we win them back? Yes, we can. Is it easier to win them back by saying, hey guys, remember Trump lied to you about being anti-war? We actually are anti-war.
Yeah,
or is
he
it
was
better
gonna do
strategy?
that.
Should we allow?
Or is it a better strategy to call them fascist?
Should we allow?
I know that emotionally it feels better to call them fascist, but it's a wrong strategy in order to win elections and take power away from Trump. The better strategy is to expose his hypocrisy on war until enough of his voters that were in the middle flip on him.
Okay, but then again, like the question of like, yeah, do you guys remember that rally at MSG Madison Square Garden where people were like, this is literally a Hitlerian type of like event, you know, like the things that they were talking about, Puerto Rico, calling Democrats trash and the enemy from within and all of that kind of stuff, and he still won. So Kyle did make a really good point about that. He didn't get to the White House by extending olive branches and being kind to people and trying to do all of that. I mean, his rhetoric is what won over independence.
What about the people who actually are fascist, would describe as fascist, and care about the fascist shit and love the fascist shit? Are we trying to win them over too? Or are there some who we just write off because they are TFGs, they are too far gone? And why should we waste our time reaching out to people who have fundamentally different values?
So, good question. Let's take two examples, right? Three examples real quick. So one is Mark Levin, right? Mark Levin is a neocon establishment, loves this war. Trying to convince him to not back Israel's war is hilarious. So should you bother with that? No, he's a bad guy, always going to be a bad guy on every issue, right? Then there's Steve Bannon, who's a bad guy on 95, 99% of issues, but at a bare minimum has to say that he's anti-war because his base is pushing him to say anti-war. But I do believe that he has some thoughts that are anti-war, okay? So should I try to convince his listeners to be anti-war? Yes. And then there's the third category, Joe Rogan and the brosphere. And I said that those guys would be the first to object to freedom of speech violations, constitutional things of war, and they did. You say not enough.
No.
But of course, okay. No, I know. Never enough. Never.
Jake,
we're gonna magic this
I swear to you, I can explain this to you in a way where you will agree with me. I promise you, I can explain it to you in a way where you will agree with me.
So, yeah,
Joe Rogan, I did this with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm just saying, Rogan. If you think you can't convince him on this war, yeah, we disagree. Go ahead.
No. Here's my point. I'm happy you brought up Joe Rogan, because I literally did this with Joe Rogan. I was on his show 5 or 6 times. I would make left-wing arguments. He would nod along in agreement and tell me I was right about all of it. Then, a short time later, he has Trump on his show, gives him a fucking hot stone massage and a hand job, and then endorses him and goes to his inauguration. And now when he does disagree with Trump, it is so fucking tepid, and then he goes right back to sucking him off on the next podcast. So my issue with somebody like Joe Rogan is it was already explained to him, Cenk, Trump is not for free speech. Okay. I know that Rogan thinks this guy believes in free speech, but here's a guy who sued Ann Selzer for a poll he didn't like. He sued CBS for how it edited a Kamala interview. He sued Simon & Schuster for a Bob Woodward book because it quoted him and he didn't like the quote. He threatened to de-license news outlets that criticized him. Yeah. He wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. He sued CNN for $475 million for calling election denialism the big lie. He sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a joke. He supports opening up the libel laws to sue journalists. He's arresting pro-Palestine protesters. A lot of these things I just listed were in the first term. And Rogan pretended I care so much about free speech and endorsed the most anti-free speech president in modern American history. So he is a fraud. He is a liar. And even now, if he goes, I'm not sure about this war with Iran thing, bro, within 3 or 4 episodes, he'll be on to shitting on the left, shitting on liberals, saying they're crazy and wokeness is crazy and the censorship from the left is out of control, because these are not serious people. These are people who ride the vibes and ride the waves in the country, and there was a pro-Trump wave. What I'm saying is, let's shift those vibes. Let's shift those waves. Let's shitpost our way and make it so that being left is edgy and cool and fun again, and that requires being a little belligerent, being a little unhinged, having fun with it. That's where I stand on it.
Okay, so Kyle, the laundry list of anti-Trump things that you just read, literally every single one of them we talked about on the Young Turks. And
I'm talking about Rogan.
Yeah,
it's about Rogan, not you. I know you know those things.
No, but the audience doesn't know that because you just listed that as if I don't know that about Trump.
It was about Rogan.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to Rogan. So all those things that Trump did show what a fraud he is, right? So now when you go to Rogan and you say, well, you voted for him anyway, so that means you're a liar and a fraud. Okay, so that's one strategy. And hey, you're more belligerent.
It's
and
not a
you're gonna
strategy.
show Rogan,
I don't
and you're
want
gonna
him.
shove it in his face. Okay?
I don't want him,
Now,
Cenk. He's
hold
gone.
on,
He's done. He's
let
Rush
me-
Limbaugh.
Kyle, can I answer? Okay. So now, I, on the other hand, am saying, look, I know that Rogan obviously made the wrong decision. Obviously, he doesn't know all that we know or doesn't care about all that we know about what Trump did in his first term. On the other hand, his audience being what it is, there was no way that he was going to support Kamala Harris. Okay, but what do we do going forward? Okay, going forward, my point is we are better off fighting Trump and his policies 200%, being as belligerent as you like. But go on Rogan and do it again and again and again. Pound that message home so that his viewers, his listeners hear it, and so that he hears it. Because it feels to me like you're giving up on convincing them. Whereas
No, just
I
him.
think a lot of them, hold on, just real quick. A lot of them were lied to and believed the lies that Trump was anti-war, as an example. So if we go to them and go, hey guys, remember how you were anti-war? Now Trump is pro-war. You see how he lied to you. I think that that's a much better strategy than saying fraud, liar, you're the worst. And I'm putting
Cenk,
Rogan in the same category as Trump. I'm putting Trump voters in the same category as Trump. I'm putting all of you guys in the same, and I'm going to be belligerent towards all of you until I drive you all away. Please don't do that. Please don't do harm.
But Cenk, the gaping hole in your argument is that Trump was a warmonger in the first term, and Mr. Anti-War Joe Rogan still endorsed him after all of his warmongering in the first term, including increase in drone strikes over 400%, bombing Syria twice, bombing Somalia, assassinating Qasem Soleimani, doing every horrible warmonger neocon thing in the world, and he still endorsed him. So maybe Rogan is just a fraud and a lost cause, and he's more like Rush Limbaugh than he is like Bill Hicks. He likes to think of himself as George Carlin or Bill Hicks. He's not. He's like fucking Rush Limbaugh.
Okay, so guys, you know I got to go because I have a panel coming up in like literally 10 minutes here at VidCon. But so I'll end on this. Guys, you can call Rogan and the voters frauds and all the dirty names. And I know your audience, all of our audiences, including ours, will love it. It's because it's an easy win with our audience, right? Oh, okay, they're the bad guys, we're the good guys. But no, giving up on Rogan, giving up on the brosphere, especially as they're now, like, look at Tim Dillon, total open revolt against Israel, against the war. They're not all the same. They're all different people. They're not like Fox News that was beholden to a corporate strategy and the Murdoch strategy, and we're always going to do talking points. These are different individuals. That doesn't mean they're angels. It means you go and engage with them, engage with their audience, engage with those voters in the middle, so we win them back and they realize we're the actual anti-war party. The left has always been anti-war. So if they want to be anti-war, they should get with us. But if you just go and attack them, yes, it feels better. Yes, you get to say that you're the pure one and you're the biggest fighter, but you're driving away those voters and you're driving away those independent brosphere media figures. And I don't think it's the right strategy. I think the better strategy is engagement,
all I'll say
even
is,
if it hurts me, because I know how to play. Like, you think I don't know how to play this game? The way to play the game is for me to say I'm the biggest, baddest fighter against the right, and I hate all of their.
It would be great
to
see you do that.
We would fucking love
It
that.
would be great if you did that,
I would love it if you did that.
Yeah, we could use you.
You win more viewers.
We could use you in that fight, because that is actually the fight right now. I mean, I would just.
Every time I say
you just said you're not doing that. You just said you're not doing that. Let me just wrap up, because you got to go, and we want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for reaching out. To me, the proof is in the pudding. Like, let's say Rogan says something critical, this one says something critical, whatever. Does it constrain Trump? Does it change his behavior? And so far, the answer is he has been vastly more unhinged, way more authoritarian, way more fascist, this administration, than the last, even with those new, whatever new parts of the coalition, whatever new influencers are involved. He's been, all the guardrails are off.
I mean, just look at Project 2025. All of this was in there.
So to me, that is definitive proof that the idea that these new populist right, the bros, whatever, in the sphere, the idea that we should be optimistic that they're going to constrain him, like, I think that has already failed.
All right, we'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah. So 6 months in, to say that something is the definitive word and to expect all of them to flip on all of the issues with 6 months in is certainly not my expectation. Okay.
It's been hell, though, right, Cenk?
Hold on. You said, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Finish.
Right. So my expectation is that if we attack their politicians and Trump, and we show their hypocrisy, and we show how wrong they are, we show how they're violating the Constitution, we show how they're authoritarian, we show how they're pro-war, how they're actually the establishment in sheep's clothing, and then we engage with their hosts so that we reach their audience and show them that is a much, much better strategy than yelling at their voters. So guys, I yell at their politicians 24/7. You could turn on the Young Turks 6 o'clock Eastern any day, Monday through Friday, and see me yelling at Trump and all their politicians. But if you do that with their voters and you do that with the brosphere and you drive them away, you will feel better and it will hurt the cause. Please, being strong in fighting against this war and fighting against this administration sometimes requires nuance. I know people hate to hear that. And we just want to feel better by attacking. But you've got to attack the right target. The right target is Trump. The right target is the Republican Party. The right target is politicians in the establishment. The wrong target are voters who at one point voted for Bernie or Obama, and that can be won over. Instead of yelling at them, remind them that we were right and that Trump was wrong and that Trump betrayed them. I think that is the infinitely better strategy. I hope you guys join me in that. And that is not a weak strategy. That is a very strong strategy to win back the middle so we can take power away from Trump.
All right, Cenk, thanks for joining us, man. Everybody can find him on the Young Turks. You can follow him on Twitter at Cenk Uygur. I know it got heated, but I'm always thankful to you, especially for giving me my start in the progressive media sphere. So you're always welcome on the show. And as I said, we could have debated for 4 hours. Maybe some point in the future we will debate for 4 hours.
Thanks, Cenk.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, so I was Cenk Uygur. Very heated debate, obviously. Here's how I think about this, Krystal. Let's just take one thing, Doge and Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Really quick. I mean, I understand what Cenk is saying. You know, don't blame the voters, blame the politician, blame Trump, blame the people at the top. Don't blame the everyday people who are swing voters, who voted for Bernie or Obama at one point, you know, and now for Trump or Biden back then, whatever. However, how many of those people are actually, you know, kind of experiencing buyer's remorse? Is that happening a lot? I mean, can those people be won back over? Are they experiencing this buyer's remorse and wanting to, you know, come back over to the other side? I don't know. That is a very interesting take. But then again, too, it's just like, I have also seen, you know, Republicans and MAGA pundits and things like that kind of, you know, smear left voters, Democratic voters, and then said Democratic voters went over to that side. So, I mean, like, the argument could be made either way. I'm just curious to know, like, what's the percentage of, you know, Trump voters or swing voters who are now experiencing some kind of buyer's remorse or voter regret in voting Trump into the White House?
Okay, here's what they did. Pediatric cancer research cuts. They cut Meals on Wheels, the CFPB, nuclear safety officials, FEMA, the Department of Education. They fired 83,000 veterans. 50% of the Social Security offices were shut down. 250,000 public workers were fired in total. Food safety inspectors fired. Air traffic controllers fired. Scientific research cut. Medical research cut. Foreign students banned. When I look at that, I no longer have sympathy. If you are cheering that on, you are my political enemy. And it is fine to call you my political enemy. And I will call you out. And the other thing is, I don't know about you, but times in my life where I've had my mind changed, it was because of very blunt, forceful truth. Where somebody clonks me over the head with it and says, you're fucking wrong, and here's why you're wrong, right? And so I think the strategy and the approach, as I tried to say to him, I really view myself in the same mold as old school TYT and old school Cenk.
I mean, that's the funny thing is that I get where he's coming from. Because
we did it.
I mean, that's...
You do it every day.
Like, that was really my approach in, you know, post-2016.
Sure,
that
me
was,
too.
You know, Rising is now involved into Breaking Points, and Breaking Points is a bit of a different thing than it used to be and whatever. But, like, that was the idea, is that if I could give credence to, okay, let's find where we overlap. You know, let's explore that area. And then I'll have credibility. You know, I'll criticize Democrats all day long. You know, I'll bash Democrats all day long. So I have credibility with you so that when Trump does something fucked up, I can say, look, I have credibility. You saw me bash Democrats. Now let me show you how Trump is wrong or how he's hypocritical or whatever. What happened instead is I ended up being part of facilitating the Bernie to Trump pipeline. I mean, I don't think I was a big part of that, but I don't think it was an effective strategy, not at all. And so at this point, what we have already seen in this administration, I think bears that out. For me personally, the project I've been trying to engage in, and I know you've been trying to engage in, and other people have been trying to engage in, is to unite the left and liberals to create radicalization among the liberal base, which is happening.
And we'll accept the libertarians on some issues where they're good.
Sure. And
Right.
I'm not against, like, okay, and this is another thing that's different. Like, if you're a legislator and you're trying to get a vote from Josh Hawley, right, go do that.
For
like,
whatever good purpose
yes,
you have,
please.
as long as it's a good purpose,
Go do. I'm
welcome.
not a legislator.
Right,
like,
of course.
that's also, you know, I'm like, we have to be real about the spaces that we occupy here, and we're in the mode of like trying to persuade and trying to influence. And so, for me, the two key projects are right now. There's a necessary triage because this has been so horrible. And the most effective way to resist has been through those alliances between lefties and liberals who have been, you know, forcefully resisting, sometimes over the objections of Democratic leadership, organizing against Tesla, organizing in Wisconsin, you know, showing up at town halls, flooding the zone, the hands-off protests, the No Kings protests, all that. And it has worked. Has it fixed everything? No, but that's where meaningful constraints have come. And then the other piece of that is to Cenk's point about, okay, well, electorally, yes. And then that's how you pave the way for by radicalizing the liberal base. That's how you pave the way to, okay, the next Bernie Sanders can win.
And they're
because
already there,
that's the
Krystal.
ultimate, because that's the ultimate. I don't just want a Democrat. I don't want, you know, just Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom to be the next.
Although they would be better than
They'd
this,
be
for
better
sure.
than this. But if we actually want to defeat fascism, because that's what we are facing, you have to meet the moment with social democracy. And so that, for me, has been the priority. And I think it's been vindicated that that has been an effective strategy. And I, you know, from my experience and from seeing what's happened with the Trump administration, I don't think his direction has worked.
In 2017, after Trump won, the Democratic base had a lot of faith in Democratic leadership, and the poll showed that. It was a majority of Democrats who said, I love the Democratic leaders. This time around, it's literally over 70% of the Democratic base says, I have no trust in the Democratic leaders.
Dang.
And what that's a sign of is that Justice Democrat spirit, which he helped launch, it's fucking here now.
Right.
We were just in election cycle early. It's here. Like, the thing that we wanted and we fought for and we created the organization for, like, the moment is here.
Just like at Zoran in New York.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So liberals being radicalized. The fucking No Kings protest, there's like wine moms wearing Luigi merchandise there. Who are we kidding?
Right.
They're calling for fucking Viva la Revolution in this bitch.
Yeah.
Right? And so that moment is here. So the way you actually fight Trump is, like I said, brute force. It's endless lawsuits, impeachment, bodies in the streets, boycotts of Elon and all of his Tesla bullshit and all of his companies, call Congress so much you break their fucking phones, form a human chain around the government buildings like they did in LA when they snatched innocent people, ICE snatched innocent people off the streets, form a human chain. They should have done this around the buildings that Doge was trying to break into to do their dirty work.
Yep.
Arrest the Doge underlings, arrest the ICE Gestapo agents who are violating laws on a daily basis, which is why they're covering their faces, cut Elon's subsidies, force the Democrats to filibuster everything. Like, it is literally all old school politics, grassroots, let's get this shit.
Yeah.
And none of it has to do, in my opinion, with reaching out with fucking right-wing podcasters who might say a mildly anti-Trump thing and then go right back. And by the way, that's the trick too, is they'll say something anti-Trump without mentioning Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Are they gonna lead the vanguard?
common.
Are they gonna lead the vanguard against Trump
Well,
when they're?
I was thinking
I
about-
actually love Trump, but he's kind of a little bit wrong about this. But I still love him.
Imagine how we would have felt about a, let's say, Democratic influencer who was out there like, oh, poor Biden is getting tricked into this genocide in Gaza, and he just doesn't understand. We'd be like, this is
Fuck
pathetic.
you.
Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking? You know, it is his fault. He's shipping the bombs. Like, no, he's not being tricked into this. It's not poor Joe Biden. It's not the deep state. It is him.
Correct.
But with the right, they play this whole game, and it's Trump can only ever be failed. He can never fail, and all of that. So, I mean, anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse. People can make their own evaluations of what they've seen unfold and what they think is effective. But, you know, here we are in a war. This is the other thing, is like, we're not threatening war with. We are in a war with
We're
Iran.
there, yeah.
Has the base fled?
No, they're going the other way. They're going more towards
They're
them.
becoming more pro-Iran war.
Trump
so.
said, I'm America first. I choose what our mission is.
And
they
he's
were
right.
like, yep.
And he's right.
And now we'll end on this. I'll end on a kind note. Nobody can understand more where he's coming from than you and me because like we just did this. You did it with Breaking
Genuinely.
Points. I did it with my million appearances on Joe Rogan's show where I tried to make him a hardcore lefty.
Yeah.
Right? And it is true. When I gave all those arguments and then he went and gave Trump a hot stone massage and endorsed him and went to his inauguration and now texts on a daily basis with Elon Musk and JD Vance and all these assholes. Yeah, that radicalized me. But that actually happened. These are empirical facts. And the correct reaction to that was radicalization. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And so,
it's okay. Now I have information I didn't have before.
Correct.
So.
And to be fair to Cenk, he was the guy in the first Trump term. He was doing what we do now. He was the fucking roaring lion, resist as much as you possibly can. Everything they do is wrong. Fuck these people. And I think TYT had tremendous subgrowth at the time. And then from his perspective, he feels like, oh, when I resisted like crazy, Trump got back in the White House in 2024, so maybe I was wrong. So now I'll try to like reach across the aisle and try to find a way through this that involves changing minds on the other side.
That's probably true.
So I can see it from his perspective of this is how I felt then, and I feel like that didn't work, and so now I'm trying something new.
Right. Whereas we're the reverse.
We're the reverse of
Yeah,
that.
we're
So
like, no, we tried the thing you're trying. Like,
right.
it didn't work.
Now, in the end, it's very possible both of us are wrong, and we just go deeper and deeper into fascism.
Yeah.
And that would be the worst case scenario. But I'll tell you this, if we are going to go deeper and deeper into fascism, I am not going down without swinging like Mike Tyson in his fucking prime, dog. I am not going down without, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
So there we go.
I do.
All right, guys, we love you all. Everybody sign up on Substack. We'll see you next week.
That was extremely fascinating. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought that was very fun. The points that they were making, Krystal, Kyle, and Cenk, all points were pretty valid. I mean, I could understand where Cenk is coming from, and Kyle talked about it at the end there about how, you know, all the things resist, all these people, screw all these people, all that kind of stuff. But then it's like, okay, but he got back in the White House. So maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I steered people kind of the wrong way, and maybe that wasn't the path to go down. But then Krystal and Kyle are like, we tried during the first term to do exactly what you're trying to do now, and it didn't work. So a lesson to learn for everybody. So where do we go from here? But yeah, you know, I thought that was extremely fascinating. I think they all made valid points. I don't want to drag this video on. I mean, we're already at an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. That was very fascinating. I think it's extremely healthy to have these kind of debates and get all these ideas out there. So I'm really, really glad that they did this. Krystal, Kyle, sorry that I played the entire video. I just wanted, I really enjoyed it. I wanted to keep going. Yeah, like I said, please don't sue me because I do not have as much money as you guys. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.